wide wonder at the joy they have found. The head nurse spoke up, said, leave this one alone. She could tell right away that I was bad to the bone. Bad to the bone. Bad to the bone.
All right, Billy Cunningham, Reds baseball, more after 2:30. But until then, your good friend of mine, Allyn Root. Allyn Root, Root for America. Allyn Root, welcome to the Bill Cunningham Show.
Hey, Bill, great to be on with you.
When I look to my left, I'm watching your president, Barack Hussein Obama, on CNN. Obama seeks good faith negotiations. Government 10 hours away from possible shutdown. Will not sign a bill that stops Obamacare from being implemented tomorrow or tonight. It's unbelievable. Give me a general sense of how much trouble you think we're in as a nation if Obamacare is implemented, which appears to be extremely likely under any scenario, because it's the law. He'll veto any bill. It takes 2/3 to override. That'll never happen. Obamacare will be the law of the land. Give me the effect on the American economy.
Well, you know the effect, Bill. First of all, you know that I wrote the Ultimate Obama Survival Guide, and that was came out 6 months ago, and that means I wrote it almost a year ago. And even then, I knew exactly what the effect would be on the economy, because the entire book talks about the fact that we're becoming a part-time jobs nation, that no one's getting a good job, no one's getting a real job, no one's getting a job that pays for a mortgage and a family and kids in college. All we're getting is crummy, crappy part-time jobs. And as if on cue, the statistics are in. Since the first of this year, about 80% of the jobs in America that have been created, and there's very few been created, but the few that have been are part-time jobs that offer terrible incomes, that offer no future, that offer no job security, that offer no pension, that offer no health care, ironically. They're really bad jobs that are being created. It's all because of Obamacare. So there are lots of bad effects. Of course, I predict the quality of health care will go down. Of course, I predict there are, in fact, going to be death panels for all intensive purposes. If they delay it or deny it, you're going to die before you ever get the care you need. And, of course, I believe the quality of care is going to go way down, because you're adding 40 million people as patients with no new doctors. And actually, to the point, it's more than no new doctors. The latest studies show over 70% of all doctors that are currently practicing are now thinking of retiring or leaving the country.
Right.
So you're probably going to have substantially less doctors with 40 million new patients. But in my mind, it's never been about the medical care. It's been about what it's going to do to the economy. Nobody will ever again have more than 49 employees, because if you have 50, you have to give them Obamacare. Nobody will ever allow their employees to work more than 29 and a half hours, because if they work 30, then you've got to give them Obamacare. So it's going to be a whole nation of businesses that either fire most or all of their employees, or from day one set out to build companies with no employees, or only with part-time employees who work 29 and a half hours. So every single result of Obamacare, from the medical care to the quality of service to the length of time you'll be waiting, to the end-of-your-life issues with death panels, to the quality of doctors if they're not getting paid as much, who will want to be a doctor, to the effects on the economy, are horrendously negative, which is why Obama's biggest supporters in Congress don't want it, which is why his biggest supporters in the unions don't want it, which is why everyone wants to be exempted from Obamacare.
And, you know, the sad part is the core of Obama's support are young Americans, African Americans. 95% of African Americans and young Americans overwhelmingly supported him, and also single white females. It looks to me like the groups most profoundly affected by Obama policies are those who support him.
Yeah, his biggest supporters were blacks, who voted 93% for Obama, Hispanics, who voted 71%. These aren't guesses, folks. These are the exact numbers sitting in front of me. Single women, 67% voted for Obama. Young people under the age 25, 60% voted for Obama. And those without a high school diploma, 64%. And now let's look at the results of Obama on those very groups. I mean, you almost have to laugh. You'd cry if you weren't laughing, because I feel so bad for people who are voting for the very thing that is destroying them. The income for black heads of households since Obama's president is down 11%, actually 10.9% if you want to be exact. For Hispanic heads of households, it's down 4.5%. For single women heading households, it's down 7%. For young people under 25, it's down 9.6%. For those with a high school diploma or less, it's down 8%. The exact dollars, the average black head of a household, income is down $4,000 a year. These are people only making $40,000 or less, and their income's down $4,000 a year since Obama became president. If you're a female single, down $2,300 a year. If you're Hispanic, down $2,000 a year. The unemployment rate among blacks, 13.3%. Among black youth, 20.9%. Among Hispanics, 9.4%. Among teens, 23.7%. Among high school graduates, under and unemployment combined, 18.3%. The numbers, Bill, are horrific. Obama's killing his own people.
So then why? I can understand African Americans, because if I had an Irish Catholic president named Kennedy or Cunningham, I would bend over backwards to make sure the Irish Catholic did well. I would excuse his mistakes, and I would explode his insignificance. I understand that. The whole African American.
No, you wouldn't, Bill. No, you
well,
wouldn't.
I probably would.
That. No, you wouldn't. Listen, I'm Jewish, and you show me a Jewish liberal, and I dislike him just as much as Barack Obama. No, you wouldn't. If he was a middle-of-the-roader, if he was a Bill O'Reilly who was kind of conservative but occasionally was fair and nice to the president, gave him the benefit of the doubt, you might defend him because he's Irish. I don't know. But in general, if you're
right.
a liberal destroying the economy, you'd never
I never.
Bill.
But African Americans will vote for black liberals, but they don't support a Clarence Thomas. They don't support a Thomas Sowell. They don't support a Walter Williams. So it's not so much about color. If you combine politics with color, you get 95% of the black vote. Even if your policies economically kill the black middle class, it doesn't make any difference. But now what about young college graduates? I had on one last night, 24-year-old female, who said she can't find work. She has student loans of $65,000. The payments are due. She probably can't make them. She moved back home with mom and dad, and she's a waitress, which is an honorable profession, but not for somebody with a college education with $65,000 in student loan debt. And I said, who'd you vote for? She said, I voted for Obama. I said, if he was running tomorrow against Mitt Romney, who would you vote for? She said, I'll vote for Obama. And I said, why? And it's because of issues such as abortion. I said, look, legislators got nothing to do with abortion. It's about the judges. So how come recent college graduates that are living home with mom and dad, they can't find work because companies aren't hiring because of Obamacare, how come they don't blame Obama?
Because they've been educated, they've been dumbed down for decades since Reagan beat Carter, and now you had, in my opinion, I've always said to you, Bill, it was a replay of Reagan-Carter. It was literally taking Carter's first term and re-electing him, except instead of 1980, now it's 2012, and last year you re-elected Obama. It was Carter's re-election all over again, except the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. You had 30 years in between of dumbing down in public school systems. I blame it all on the school system. You've got radical leftist teachers who teach their kids that there's global warming, and global warming is ruining the world, and the white men who were the founders of America are the most evil men that ever lived, and America's this terrible nation that takes advantage of everyone. Even though every war we've ever been in, we've never taken over that country, we've never grabbed their resources, we've let our boys die just to fight for ideals and principles. Never, ever took a thing from any country we were ever in. They teach you that all of life is about redistribution and social justice and equality, and they teach you that that everything a Republican wants makes them evil. Everything a capitalist does is against poor people, and this is what they've been taught. And now you've got Common Core, this new education idea that has been accepted by 45 out of 50 states that basically says all those very things. All of life is about literally social justice and redistribution and the evil people that want to make money. And they've heard this again and again, Bill, and they know nothing about money. No one's ever given them an economics course in their life. They've never owned a business. They don't know how hard it is. They don't know the sacrifices. They don't know the risk involved. They don't know how hard it is to take $100,000 that you've got in the bank, your only $100,000, and put it up on a business knowing that it might only last a few months and you'll need more money and you're out of money. They don't know that that credit belongs to business owners who then use that money to create their jobs. Nobody ever teaches them the values that made America great and the very opposite values that have destroyed every European country you can name. Forget communist nations. Forget Cuba, forget Venezuela, forget the Soviet Union. Those are easy to vilify. But what about Spain and Italy and Greece and France and Portugal? They're all completely bankrupt. Their people are suffering, the likes of which we haven't seen since 1929, but it's much worse. They've got years ahead of them where they're going to be dumpster diving to look for food, even if he used to be a banker in a suit. And it's all because of overspending and big government and, yes, free health care. So the fact that you're free to get an abortion It's just not going to affect your life on a day-to-day basis. If I was a woman, I'd worry more if I could afford to pay for abortion. If I was Hispanic, I'd worry more if I could afford to have a job and pay for my family than what I think Republicans and white men think about me as Hispanic. If I was black, the main issue is a job. It's always a job, and someone needs to teach people of all colors and all races and all religions that it all comes down to freedom, and freedom is about having a job so you can do what you want to do in life.
You know, Wayne, I believe that we've gone past the tipping point with the last election when 51% of us said we want to continue the Obama policies because of the checks in the mail for disability, for food stamps, for Section 8, for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and all the rest. That there's a chunk of Americans who want government to house, clothe, feed them, and take care of them, and I think we're past 50%. So what's going to change?
Yeah, I listen, I don't know that anything's going to change. I've always said, number one, we're facing a declining country, and you got to face that fact. We're in decline. It's looking bad. I think we're Rome. I think this is Rome, and the Roman Empire involved wars all over the world, and too many people on welfare and government checks and government handouts, and eventually Rome, the most powerful empire in world history, went down, completely gone. And America's facing that right now. But is it a fact we're gone? No, I'll give you one glimmer of hope. And the glimmer of hope is the Republican Party needs to find candidates who do not bend their principles to try and get black votes or women votes or Hispanic votes or gay votes, but rather have a good, interesting, and what's the word I'm looking for? A factual argument, a persuasive argument that will convince blacks and women and gays and Hispanics that the way to go is to be more inclusive and to open up capitalism to more people. It's not to hurt rich people and drag them down. It's to open it up to black people getting rich and Hispanic people getting rich and gay people getting rich and single women, single mothers getting rich. And if you can come up with an inclusive message like that, I still think there's hope that once things go really bad, they'll see the light and we can win elections. It isn't over yet, but it's darn close to over. Because the debt is just so hard to ever pay back. I don't know how we're ever going to do it without 90% tax rates. But, of course, therein lies the entire plan in the first place, Bill. Obama wanted to destroy the country and tip it over to the point where there's no choice but to have 90% taxes, and then you've got the perfect socialist redistribution country.
And it also means that in 2, 3, or 4 years, if Obamacare is implemented starting tonight, and people start signing up, there are millions and millions of Americans who won't have the income or the money to pay the premiums, which means the government will pay them. Then they're going to know quickly the identities of these people, their home addresses, the emails, get the Obama phones.
And their whole history. Don't forget that by law now, doctors are going to have to ask you about your medical history and your sexual history. And by law, it's shared with the government, folks. If you don't think this is the ultimate big brother, if you don't think they're going to use this against you, I have a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. That's what this is all about. It's always been about that, Bill. The NSA scandal and Obamacare are about the exact same thing. Government wants to know everything about your life so they can blackmail you, ruin you, convince you to vote their way, convince you to drop out of an election if you're going to run for office. They want to know everything about your life, and they're going to use it against you.
And wasn't that the real purpose of the IRS going after the Tea Party groups and other conservatives, was to tamp them down? They were scared to death after 2010. Meetings were had in 2011. How do we reelect our guy? The public employee unions got their marching orders directly and indirectly after the scare of 2010, and they held down people like you and the Tea Party to keep you busy so you couldn't organize and defeat Obama, and they succeeded.
Yeah, I think the central point out of my book, The Ultimate Obama Survival Guide, was that Obama's using the levers of government, the power of government, to change America and to destroy America and to devalue successful people like business owners. And I said the number one group he's using in government is the IRS to come after us and to audit small business owners and to criminally come after anybody that disagrees with him, that criticizes him. But that was written a year ago. That came out 6 months ago. Now, since what we found is Lois Lerner and many other executives at the IRS, we've seen their emails. We know what they said to each other. They said things like, how do we stop the Tea Party? How do we stall the growth and the momentum of the Tea Party? How do we stop them from raising too much money? And last but not least, they even put in writing, how do we keep a Democratic majority, a Democratic majority, meaning Democratic senators in the majority in the U.S. Senate? The only way to do it is we've got to stop the Tea Party. And so, my belief, and that's my article that's at The Blaze right now, and it was the number one article the whole weekend at Glenn Beck's website, The Blaze, is the fact that I believe we've seen a government employee hijacking of the last election. Government employees in the IRS who knew their pensions were threatened, who knew their very jobs were threatened, who knew their power was threatened, who knew their union was threatened, and who knew their big salaries were threatened, got together with Barack Obama, and I believe on his orders and his administration's orders, and they took over the election by damping down the enthusiasm and the momentum of the Tea Party. They kept voters at home. They kept money from being raised that would have been raised, and they decided the outcome of an election so a president who is very pro-big government could be back in office and spend 4 years hiring more government employees, raising their salaries, protecting their pensions, and strengthening their union, and hiring more and more IRS employees and giving them more power to oversee Obamacare. And so what you had is the IRS and Obama together with government employee unions stole the 2012 election.
Now, we have to run, but as proof of that comment, if the same number of people who voted in 2008 for McCain voted for Romney in 2012, Romney would have won.
Correct.
We got to run. Wayne Allyn Root, Root for America. You're truly a great American.
Thank you, Bill. God bless.
We'll do it again. Let's continue with more. Billy Cunningham, News Radio 700, WLW.